This is Logan Secular. We got a jam-packed show today with our guests, Hollywood actor John Schneider and Tulsi Gabbard.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Seculo. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Logan Secular.
We've got a jam-packed show today. A lot of great guests coming on. Tulsi Gabbard, you're going to hear that. You're going to hear John Schneider in an interview we did for the Secular Brothers podcast, but you're going to want to stay tuned. He's got a brand new movie. You know John. He is an actor. He is a director. You know him from projects like The Dukes of Hazzard. He was Bo Duke. You know him from things like Smallville or Dancing with the Stars or, countless films and television series, faith films, the Roe versus Wade movie. He's involved always in what's going on in culture. He's producing and making his own films, and we're going to talk about that as well. He's not producing. His wife is producing. You'll hear about that because she has amazing credentials. We talk all about that in this interview you're going to hear later on. I'm excited about it. He's got a brand new film to die for. John's always been very supportive. You should actually go watch some of the J. Seculo band performances with John Schneider, which were done a little bit ago.
Very talented individual.
Yeah, those were done, I believe, in 2020, and we want to bring him back. Have him. He always is in and out of our lives. I feel like he's around, so it's awesome. He's a great guy and shares a lot of your same core values and beliefs. So we're going to have him on later in the show. Also, before that, she made a lot of news this week. We have our interview that we did. One of the first interviews she did with Tulsi Gabbard. It was pretty fun, Will, to see when she announced that she was leaving the Democratic Party. When she announced for her first episode of her podcast went up, had millions and millions of people watching. There was 3 outlets she was on: us, Rogan, and on Tucker. So to be part of that conversation, we were honored because those were sort of, they're sort of the two of the biggest players in, would you say, I don't know if I'd put Rogan in news media, but in media, right. Millions of people. So we were honored to have her on, and you're going to hear that, plus Rick Grenell.
But it also shows you what the support of the ACLJ can do. It gives us a platform here where we are able to get Tulsi Gabbard, because of our connections and relationship with her, being able to get her on the show the day that she makes that announcement that was #1 trend on Twitter for the entire day. And she was on two of the biggest media players out there. She was also on our show. And you're going to get to hear that conversation about why she made this move to leave the Democrat Party and all of the things that entails. But it was really important because of the members of the ACLJ. We are able to get that news out to people. We're able to get this analysis to them right as it's happening. One of the biggest stories in politics this week. And it was broken down right here on Seculo.
Yeah, and my dad, he's going to be on Tulsi's podcast, and you can even watch, which I encourage you to do. We did a 10-part series called Revenge of the Taliban. It's available on aclj.org or on our YouTube channel, maybe on our Rumble channel as well. And we had an interview with her just during the withdrawal from Afghanistan last year. It's 10 parts, a lot of different points of view, and she's one of them, obviously someone who is involved in the military to this day. So you can find that on aclj.org. I encourage you all to go to the website. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again because there is so much great content on that website. People go there. You may think you're going there to just look at what's going on, maybe support our latest cause, sign a petition. I encourage you all to do that. It's incredibly important. However, there is an incredible amount of content that is available on this website, whether that's news, whether that's videos, whether that's blogs by Mike Pompeo or Rick Grenell, who will be joining us coming up. Each and every day, brand new material.
That's right. And those articles are exclusive to aclj.org.
Right.
And a lot of times you'll even see an article by Mike Pompeo gets published on our website, and then it starts popping up other places in the news because it makes news. All because it started right here. Yeah,
and that is all because of you helping us and supporting us. Again, if you can, we know it is a hard time on a lot of people right now. Record inflation. Things are going up. It's crazy. But what you can do is support the work of the ACLJ if you can. And you can just support by liking and sharing. You don't have to support financially, but if you can, we encourage you to. Later in the show, again, towards the end, you're going to hear our interview with John Schneider. That's from the Secular Brothers podcast, our brand new show that's available 3 days a week on all your favorite podcast players, YouTube, and on Rumble. You can find all those links on SeculoBrothers.com. It's a fun, maybe more casual look at what's going on in the world of news, pop culture, culture in general. We'll be right back. Coming up again, Tulsi Gabbard, John Schneider, Rick Grenell, Pack Show. Be right back.
Freedom of Information Act allows people to petition their government and ask for the background information as to why they came to a certain decision.
It's thousands of pages of paper, and in those thousands of pages of paper, you usually find a nugget.
We are entitled as citizens of the United States to know about how our government works.
Government agencies acting out of control.
They want to keep Americans in the dark. That's why it's incredibly important to have the ACLJ constantly pushing to find out what the background information is.
Do you remember the Iran deal? There was a video about what took place on that deal, and it was edited. And the edit took out the key part of what was going on. State Department, White House, editing videos to keep it from the American public.
We have exposed that in our FOIA litigation, and we do that every day that we bring these cases.
We took it to the IRS. No one ever does that. And because of it, it's a very weak government agency that used to be the scary government agency.
What the IRS was doing was violating the Constitution and statutory law. Because of the litigation we engaged in, it's a different agency. They can't do what they were doing before.
We've got the declassified list of Obama administration officials who started asking to unmask, and they've been hiding behind in the shadows. These FOIAs bring them to light.
And all of this information came because we went to court to get the information.
The power of Washington, D.C. only works when the rest of us, the rest of Americans, are kept in the dark.
We may find one item of information in thousands of documents of irrelevancies, but we persist and we're on it every day of our lives.
The work that the ACLJ does matters. It matters to policymakers. It matters to ordinary citizens all across America.
Those of you that support the ACLJ, this is what it's all about at the end of the day.
Think we haven't been on this, folks? We've been on it. All right, welcome back to Sekio. This is Jordan Sekio, folks. It's great to have Tulsi Gabbard, especially today. A big announcement from Tulsi on leaving the Democrat Party. She launched a new podcast as well to kind of walk people through this. So, Tulsi, I appreciate you joining us today on a big day for you, and it's exciting news. I retweeted it right when I was up this morning here on the eastern side of the country. My first question to you, and I'm going to go to my dad, but my first question to you, you talk about the cowardly wokeness. And I talk to folks, all the time in the corporate world, and it's like every day tiptoeing around every issue because you don't even know what's coming the next day where you've got to change your entire way of thought, the language you use, the words you use, or suddenly you're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what does that really point to? It points to the fundamental problem with today's Democratic Party, which is they're opposed to freedom. They don't support freedom of thought. They don't support, critical thinking. They don't support freedom of speech. And given these are the principles that make up the foundation of our country and our Constitution, and they're diametrically opposed to them and actively seeking to undermine those freedoms, religious liberty being one of them, this is the problem. And this is why so many people are walking around on eggshells, because it's not enough that they're attacking our right to free speech, our freedom of religion. If anyone dares to step outside the line, if anyone even dares to question their logic or their narrative or their argument, they're immediately attacked and smeared. In some cases, their livelihoods are threatened, their ability to support themselves and their families. It is antithetical to who we are as Americans and the vision that our founders had for this country, and therefore poses a direct danger and threat to our democracy.
Dad, go ahead.
Absolutely. So, Tulsi, I said earlier in the broadcast when I was on just with Jordan that I've known you and your family for, my goodness, a long time. I mean, many decades. And this is a very appropriate time to say something to you that I don't think I've shared with you before. But when we were covering the debates, we all said on air that in the Democratic debates that you were really taking it. You were really doing a great job. And when we asked people, who were they going to vote? If they weren't voting for Donald Trump, who would be their favorite candidate? You'd think they would pick one of the 20 Republicans that were running, and everybody was saying Tulsi Gabbard. So this, you always kind of have been outside of what I would call, party speak and really speaking your mind, and which is great. So, but leaving the party and leaving the apparatus is a big decision. And just for a moment, I think it would be great to share with our audience around the country and around the world that are listening on our social media platforms. What was the process like? Because this was obviously a big decision. You ran for president in the Democratic Party just a few years ago, and now you're leaving that party.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jay, and I appreciate being able to be here and to talk with you guys this morning. Frankly, because of the work that you've dedicated your life to defending freedom in a lot of different circumstances. And that's really what this decision came down to, is that today's Democratic Party, how insane today's Democratic Party has become. I think there are a lot of folks, a lot of Democrats across the country who have been increasingly concerned over time, as I have been, about the direction that they're taking this country in, and are wondering, hey, what can I do to try to be a part of the solution? Which is why I issued that call to action. Join me. Leave this insane, woke, crazy, and dangerous Democratic Party, and let's take a stand to put country first. Fight for freedom. Fight for our fellow Americans' God-given rights that are enshrined in our Constitution that they seek to try to take away.
You've experienced the demonization or attempt to demonize. And I always want to remind people, not only you're outspoken and clear with your views and not afraid of these party apparatuses, but you serve our country to this day. And when these accusations that get thrown, we all see it. It's online, but you're still willing to take that stand. I mean, how much of it? Because I was probably on the other side of the aisle, spent most of my life working in the Republican Party, and you do get to points where you think, okay, is this still where I belong? And so you went through that process. And what is it like? What are your former constituents? What are you hearing from them? Are more of them feeling that way as well? Like taking that maybe an independent route, not necessarily running to join another party, but say, you know what, let's take a step back and talk through the issues.
Jordan, I've always been an independent-minded person. So even as I joined the Democratic Party 20 years ago, and throughout the time that I've served in various public offices, from city council to state house to Congress and then running for president, I have maintained that independent mind. I've been an independent Democrat. And so, whether it's people who I had the privilege of serving here in Hawaii, colleagues in Congress, people who actually know me, understand that my loyalty is to our country and the Constitution, as it always has been. And so taking this step really is a recognition, again, of what is most important to me in my life. I love our country, and I have dedicated my entire adult life to serving our country and to defending those freedoms, whether it's in uniform or in public office. And this is continuing to fulfill my commitment to do that. And like I said, I think there are a lot of folks, whether it's people here in Hawaii or people who I've worked with or I've heard from across the country, who share these concerns, but like you said, are too afraid to say anything, which is so sad when you think about it, that here we are in the United States of America that's supposed to be this beacon of freedom for the country or for the world, and yet Americans are afraid to voice their opinions or to think independently outside of one party line or another. That is what has to change. And I hope that people who are seeing my what I'm doing and listening to what I'm saying will feel emboldened and inspired to take that stand themselves.
Let's talk about your podcast, because this is obviously a new venture and something we're really excited about and happy that to promote. And we think having your voice out in that venue, in that platform, the podcast platform, is a great idea. So I want to start with that. That launches. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I'm going to ask you a political question. Yeah,
sure, Jay. I've been wanting to put together a podcast, an online show for a long time, really because the limitations of the mainstream media are real. The demonization thing is real. Their ability to control a narrative is real. So even on a good day, if you go on live television, you're lucky you get 4.5 minutes to make your point about like the greatest threat to democracy that we face. Like, my gosh, how do you talk about that in 4 minutes? And so being able to have my own show where there's no time limits. There's no corporate boss telling me what I can and can't say. It really provides that opportunity to share my thoughts and views, to go in depth on different issues and challenges we face, and to have really interesting conversations with people about those. And I'm grateful to you, Jay. We recorded an incredible conversation about religious liberty and freedom that I'm excited to share with our listeners and our viewers for the Tulsi Gabbard Show, which is on YouTube, Rumble, and on all audio podcast platforms.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. Political question. We've got a situation in Eastern Europe that is a war, unfortunately. The United States policy is very hard to define. We've got an economy that's teetering right now. And then you look at the oil and gas situation, and energy costs are exorbitant, as are food costs. All of these issues are happening, and some would say, well, you've left the political process, but the truth is your voice will be much more amplified outside. But what kind of point are we at in America right now as you see it, as you launch your podcast, as you leave the Democratic Party? Where do you see the country? Because I know for you that's first, the country.
It is, and regardless of whether people identify as a Democrat or Republican, Independent, Libertarian, whatever it is, the reality is there are a lot of Americans across the country who are struggling for all of the reasons that you're talking about, whether it's inflation or rising gas prices, all of these different things. It comes down to a failure of leadership. That is what we see when we look at the White House and in Washington, is selfish politicians who care more for their own power or winning the next race than they do about actually fighting for peace, fighting for prosperity for the American people, and upholding and protecting our freedoms. We can change that. We've got to cast our votes in the coming election and make sure our voice is heard, and vote for the right people who will fight for us and for the Constitution.
Folks, you can learn about everything that Tulsi's doing. It's TulsiGabbard.com. So the podcast, Substack, again, it's all available there. So, again, I encourage everybody to go there and to share it with your friends and family. I was talking about this with my brother earlier, is that Tulsi's able to reach people that we're not able to reach and talk about these issues directly. So go to TulsiGabbard.com. We appreciate Tulsi joining us on such a big news day for her, a big decision to leave the party. TulsiGabbard.com. We'll be right back on Secular.
In my time in service, both as the CI director and as Secretary of State, I watched the good work that the ACLJ was doing here in the States and all across the world.
The ACLJ's work at the UN, overseas with the European Court of Justice, is incredibly important.
We have on our team lawyers, non-lawyers as well, that are policy experts. They're all engaged in foreign policy issues.
We have been focused on protecting the nation state of Israel, particularly before the United Nations.
We don't shy away from the battles that are going on at the UN and just complain about them. We actually try to go in and do something positive and actually affect change.
The risk of an incomplete or unsolid relationship within the United States of America and Israel is real.
Israel is very important to the ACLJ, and we will always fight for Israel's rights.
We had a series of cases at the European Court of Human Rights, primarily dealing with religious liberty.
And as Secretary of State, I saw this too. Nations that had more religious freedom were on firmer footing. They had better democracies.
America has always been the world leader in religious liberties, in freedom of conscience and freedom of speech.
We've taken the First Amendment, and that has been our cornerstone. It's to defend the rights of people of faith and others that are having their rights abused.
We not only hold our government accountable, but we hold other governments accountable.
You have to keep the battle going when it's not cool anymore, when it's not the number one story on TV. You have to actually be committed to fighting it out, or else you'll never win.
The ACLJ's front and center on this, whether it is going after the deep state, whether it is litigation that we're engaged in. Your support of the ACLJ enables us to do all of this. Go to aclj.org today. That's aclj.org. All right, welcome back to Secular. Folks, this is a huge point that we need to focus in on with Saudi Arabia. This come out of the administration. You just saw, if you're watching the broadcast, if you're listening,
You were in commercial break, but if you're watching the broadcast, we just played this slew of Democrats. They are in line on this message, cutting off, military aid to the Saudis. Maybe we don't want our military on the ground there. So you think about it with all of the different conflicts, and I know that they're upset about the OPEC move, but there's that question of how much was it about the United States, how much was it about the current administration, and where it's kind of placed the United States. So I want to go to Rick Rennell, our senior advisor for foreign policy and national security. So Rick, right off the bat, it just seems like at a time there's a lot of turmoil in the world. I know that they're not happy about this OPEC move, and that speaks a lot to how they view the Biden administration, and then, of course, then how you view the United States. But the first point I'd say is we put ourselves in this situation where they could even have this kind of power over the United States to say we're going to cut 2,000 barrels a day, and that could send us into massive inflation in gas prices.
Yeah, the thing that I would say is the Biden administration put us into this dilemma. They're the ones who picked the fight with the Saudis in the beginning. Remember, too, that the Senate Democrats have made strategic mistakes over the last 2 years. They dropped the sanctions, the Trump sanctions, on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the Russian pipeline. When the Senate Democrats dropped the sanctions, they said this was the better path. This was a better policy because we didn't want to stick it in the eye of Russia. And that caused a war in Ukraine. Remember, too, the Senate Democrats worked with the Biden administration to remove the Houthis from the terrorist watch list. And what happened? We immediately saw a war where the Houthis were shooting missiles at the UAE. So now we have Senate Democrats coming forward and saying, block our relationship with the Saudis. This is yet another example of their strategic blunders. We should absolutely not do this, and we should absolutely not follow the path of the disastrous ideas that the Senate Democrats have put forward. They've caused a war in Ukraine, for God's sake.
And it seems to me, Rick, I mean, it's kind of easy, I think, to Americans if, you could demonize the Saudi Arabian, the kingdom, the family, and all these different aspects. But I think when you actually learn about how involved we are there with military bases, with shared military equipment, when it comes to like global and international issues or regional issues in the Middle East, they're a very close partner. Is it a stretch to say that they'd be the closest major military partner after Israel in the region?
Well, look, they're one of the partners that we absolutely need to work on. And let me be very blunt. After the Khashoggi incident, we absolutely pushed the Saudis and punished the Saudis in the Trump administration and made sure that they understood that this was a terrible mistake that was going to greatly impact our relations. We improved on that. I think that there was a huge improvement, and we were trying to set a new course in our relationship. And then the Biden team came in, and Avril Haines, who is the director of national intelligence, repackaged the entire portfolio on Khashoggi and released it like it was new information. It wasn't new information. It was a strategic way for them, the Biden team, to message to the Iranians that they were going to beat up on the Saudis because they wanted to have new negotiations with Iran. Meanwhile, we're seeing Iran get worse with human rights abuses, and this Biden team continues to negotiate with them on a nuclear deal. This is yet another blunder in the Middle East by the Biden team and Senate Democrats. We should absolutely do the opposite of what they're saying.
Yeah, to me, I would say that after this OPEC move, it would be with an ally like this who does have a lot. They rely on the U.S. for a lot for security, and for the equipment they use, their military equipment, and it's not exactly just a two-way street there. But instead of trying to rebuild that relationship, whether it's behind the scenes, strategically, uniting around the common enemy in Iran, instead it's playing this out publicly. It's just another issue, I think, where the American people go, are we going to have another disaster? This is like, how many on the list can we handle at a time when, it doesn't say this is the best administration to be balancing all these at the same time.
Look, we see a history from the Biden administration of weaponizing government against their political enemies. And this is yet another example. We've seen them weaponize the DOJ. We've seen them weaponize the FBI. the IRS. When they don't like someone, they use the tools of government to go after them. So now what's happened is they begged the Saudis for an OPEC deal. The Saudis said no. And what do? They throw a tantrum and they say, well, now we're going to completely freeze everything because we didn't get our way. They're weaponizing diplomacy now. And this is just a childish behavior. Again, the Senate Democrats dropped the sanctions on the Russian pipeline, the Trump sanctions on the Russian pipeline. They dropped them. And what happened? We saw war in Ukraine.
If we were energy independent, one, this decision wouldn't have been the same kind of impact. But second, I feel like that also gives us more leverage over countries like Saudi Arabia, who ultimately are looking down the road to say they got to figure out a post-oil economic structure too for them. And yet when we become so dependent on the world, I mean, we send so many mixed signals, Rick. It's like we're going to Venezuela to Chevron's going back in there, and we're lifting sanctions on them while at the same time we're punishing, and they're allied with Iran, and then we're punishing the Saudis because we don't like their OPEC decision. We're putting them in saying that they are Putin. And to me, it appears like what you said, these are self-inflicted blunders. I mean, this didn't have to happen this way.
For sure. When you look at the policies of President Trump and getting us off Middle East oil, he was very successful in telling the Middle East, we don't need your oil. We're going to be energy independent, and we're going to be an energy exporter. That went over like a lead balloon in the Middle East because they love the leverage that they used to get from being able to put one over on the United States with gas prices. President Trump completely changed that. Joe Biden put us back into that. He made us beholden to Middle East oil again by canceling the XL pipeline, by making sure that we're not energy independent, by drilling and making our own energy and producing our own energy. And so now what we see is we're back to the old ways where we have to beg the Middle East leaders for some sort of gift, and they're saying they don't want to give us the gift. So we're back to putting ourselves into this leverage again. We got to get out of it.
Yeah, Rick, we're going to follow this closely because I think this is one to educate people about it, the relationship, the strategic relationship, the importance. Because the other side, they quickly try to demonize. They'll start bringing up 9/11 again when it fits their narrative that they're trying to blame someone else for where we are on gas prices. Rick, as always, we appreciate your insight on Seculo. Rick, of course, part of the ACLJ team. And when these issues, I mean, this just happened. We're able to bring Rick right in to get you up to speed because it impacts us. I mean, the OPEC decision impacts all of us driving. The strategic, of course, military relationship there, which hopefully, is able to build a barrier so we don't have to go to larger conflicts. And again, you see it just kind of gets thrown out the window very quickly, and everybody on the Democrat Party is in line saying, it's time to stop sales. It's time to rethink the relationship. And I don't think there's enough education on that. It's kind of easy to say about them and then not explain why 2 months ago the president was there. We'll be right back on Seculo. Tulsi Gabbard joining us.
This is the Seculo Brothers Podcast. We want truth, no more lies, no more lies. We speak how we feel, no more compromise. take away our freedom, huh? Now, this is America, land of the brave and a home of the free, and a country full of people feel just like me. Land of the brave and a home of the free, and a country full of people feel just like me.
Welcome to Secular Brothers Podcast. It's Logan Secular.
Jordan Secular's here.
And we are excited because I think this is our first in-studio guest. We've done this about a month. We got a lot of listeners, John, but I feel like you happen to be here. This is a great time to have you in.
I am your guinea pig?
I mean, we've had, you're
On
our first
set, yes.
in-studio.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And
Hi,
It shows
everybody.
that we are real.
That we are real?
It shows that
The desk is real.
I'm glad I could validate
Because we're
the
across,
Secular
we go
brothers.
across from each other.
People do think we're closer physically. They're like, how close are you to Jordan? I was like, we're a good 10 feet away from each other.
I can't reach out.
No. John Schneider's here. John Schneider, you know him, you love him, actor, director, producer, musician,
Actually,
everything.
my wife is a producer. I have
Wife,
to jump
I'm
right in
sorry.
there. I'm not a producer. That takes math skills, and I have none.
It is tough. You're here to talk about a new movie that I think a lot of people in our audience certainly are going to like. It's called To Die For, and it is coming out on October 20th. So let's just get that out of the
Yes.
way. It's happening. Go to ToDieForMovie.com. It'll take you
Yes.
directly there to watch this.
You have to put movie in, or it'll take you to an old Nicole Kidman film.
Okay, To Die For Movie.
That I'm not in, and I don't care if you see that or not. But ToDieForMovie.com is where you will find this intensely patriotic movie about our flag. It's not a documentary, by the way.
No, and it says right in the press release, it starts with, John Schneider steers right of Hollywood, its upcoming movie. You're taking things head on. I think a lot of people want to see this. They want to see, let's put Hollywood in quotes, but they want to see film and television have a voice for people who are maybe on the other side of the political aisle. Because as we were talking about even before, there's a heck of a lot of people out there who would like some content that at least represents some of their values.
Well, the number one thing I've heard about this, and not that many of my friends have seen it, but I showed little pieces of it. Even the trailer, they've come to me and they've said, even in this trailer, you say everything that we want to say, but we're afraid to. And my question to them is, why are you afraid to? Why is it that the overwhelming majority of people, we know this is true, the majority of people in this country are conservative. The majority of people in the world are most concerned with getting through the day and being able to pay their bills and take care of their family, right? So they're not concerned about getting a free this or a free that. So they are in tune with this, but for some reason, they feel that they have got to, is it kowtow? I think that's a Dukes of Hazzard kind of a slogan. Kowtow to the not so silent minority. Yeah. And I don't get that. And people think I'm from the South, and I am in my soul. I'm from the South in my soul. I'm a cowboy. But in my attitude, I am from New York. And I think that's why I just don't get it. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Somebody said to me, yes, sir.
Yeah, we went from a world, and this kind of gets to the heart of the movie, and I watched the trailer before we came on, is that post 9/11 world, everyone was flying a flag. And it was okay.
Every garage door had a flag.
Yeah.
Yep.
But right now, you put an American flag and that's now a political statement, and whether you like it or not. And so, again, it's people, and people are thinking twice, like you said.
Well, we have a line from a high school principal in the movie where I say, what is it? I can't fly. I can't drive my truck, within 300 yards of the school with the American flag on the back of my truck, and she says that's because currently it's seen as a divisive symbol. And I said, that's the stupidest thing I've heard since global warming. And she says, don't you mean climate change? And I say,
And that's a real situation that's happening around the country.
Well,
it's not like you said, you're taking these moments that are happening. We're all seeing them, whether we're acknowledging them or not. And that's what you brought up. Well, why do people feel this way? Because maybe the media is certainly portraying as, right and wrong, good and evil. And you have to be careful, whether it's in your friend group or you feel like it, or your kids' school groups, or you feel like this need of being like, I don't want to say these things.
You feel like being an outsider, even though you're not. And that's the plan of the enemy, and they're doing a great job. Yeah. It's I applaud their ability. I was talking to a great singer-songwriter here in town named Chuck Cannon yesterday about this, and they have the ability, the innate ability, I think, to come up with a slogan or with a statement that kind of then runs on its own. It doesn't. It's like that old, when did you stop beating your wife? question.
Right.
You can't, okay, well, how do I answer that question? So they have a way of, and they have had it for years, decades. I read a book back in the 70s that my bride just got me another copy of. I lost it in a flood, called The Disaster Lobby. It talks about DDT. It talks about ecology. It talks about Silent Spring. It talks about all these things that were popular in the 60s about Lake Erie, the dead lake and all that. And it was all patently untrue. It was proved to be untrue later, but when it was spoken, it was untrue. All of the fish in Lake Erie are dead. There's more mercury in fish. The big companies are dumping mercury into our water supply.
Became real.
And then right away, though. They didn't have to keep saying it. So they've come up with a way right away to to put you on the defensive. And I think they're geniuses at it. And I'm hoping that this movie is going to do that very same thing. Because guess what? There was just as much mercury in a pound of tuna in 1873 as there was in 1967. Just as much. And they proved that later. But by the time you prove them wrong, and this is part of
this is a big problem.
Yes, that's so. Oh, now it's global warming? No, I'm sorry. It's climate change.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that with social media. We've seen that with so many of the issues that have come up the last few years, where for 6 months, if you said something, you'd be banned. Even really political things that we saw that with Hunter Biden and all of those things.
Most wild
my
thing.
God.
We had a computer. You have the pictures. No one was saying.
But if you
he
talked
wasn't
about
saying
it,
they weren't real. But if you talked about it, you were Russia. You were a Russian agent, and
You were
this gets
colluding.
tossed
You were
around.
colluding.
It's like if you have an American flag, you're somehow the other side with the American flag. You're trying to say, hey, I support my country. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of my country. Besides the politics that go on, that was what kind of kept us always moving forward. Is that our politicians can be ridiculous sometimes, and you don't always support them. But so what? We're still Americans, and we move forward we move past them. But now that divide where you think people don't want to unite under the flag.
Well, these people, but they do. People
Well,
really, and we're
I
seeing
think
that.
that's right. There's so many, like we said, there's so many of the texter friends who totally support what we're doing here, but would be scared to death to say this all publicly. They say it behind the
Well,
scenes.
if somebody comes into a room with people that I love and they've got a firearm and they're going to kill people that they don't know, all I want to be is a better shot.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what we're having more and more of. I saw another one today. There was a sheriff somewhere that urged citizens to, someone tries to loot your home or your business, you shoot them.
Yep.
You shoot them till they look like, I would have said Swiss cheese. He said grated cheese. I just like Swiss cheese better.
it's
and it's got those big holes in it.
Right. It's a better visual.
But yeah, so this movie is about all of those things. It's I play a guy named Quint North. I almost named him Quint Westwood because it was like so close to Clint Eastwood. And it's very similar in tone to Gran Torino.
Okay.
Yep.
Except Gran Torino was more of a personal story, and there is a personal story in here, but the big story in To Die For is just looking around in wonder about how in the world has this happened? How could this be wrong? You remember Michael Douglas did a great movie years ago called Falling Down, where he said, "I'm the bad guy."
Yeah, exactly.
And in this, Quint North is discovering that there is a whole force out there that is calling him and people who think like him the bad guy.
Yeah.
While at the same time, he is his own bad guy because he has a neighbor across the street. He's got this war going on. The only thing they have in common is they both like John Wayne movies.
Okay.
So it also has
that tie.
It has a little
You
humor in there.
You're part of the writing team.
But it gets right to the heart of the nonsense that we're being fed and the lunacy of the flag being a divisive symbol.
Let's talk about that. I think that the production side of this is really interesting to me, which is you're making these movies.
Yes.
You're out there doing them yourself. You still, you come out here very vocal on your feelings, issues. It's not like you're not working. You haven't been canceled in the terms of you're able to. You did Christmas in Tune last year. All
Right.
these
Well,
things
for some reason they can't. I'm mashed potatoes. You can't cancel mashed potatoes.
Which is really actually pretty interesting.
You can't cancel a grilled cheese sandwich.
To me, that is actually fascinating because they tried to do it to the Dukes of Hazzard. They've tried to do it to other things you've maybe been associated with, but somehow you're still out there. You're working professionally.
And
all the
when
time.
I want, which is kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not like you're making these movies because you have to. You're making these movies because, one, I'm sure it's a joy to make them, and it's interesting work because you're out there producing these yourself or directing them.
Directing, thank
Sorry,
you.
Not
Sorry, baby.
Executive producing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, don't make it come after me. But you're making all of this content yourself to have that voice while still working in somewhat of a system when needed. Like you said, when there's a play to happen or one of those specials that are happening on all the different networks I'm seeing you on. It's great, honestly, that you're still out there and you're making an impact, not just this, but you're also making your own stuff for an audience that wants it. And probably that audience that is watching your other content, whether that is a movie on Lifetime or whether that's a movie on, it's the same audience. They still want that.
Absolutely.
Even if the networks don't want to pretend, they want to pretend they don't. They know.
They do. They know. And we also distribute our own stuff, which I think is a very important and very different thing that Alicia and I do, because most everybody else I know, if they do, and by the way, we made this movie with like 10 people over a long period of time, the last 10 months or so.
Yeah, you had long hair.
I made it. Well, it's in the movie.
Yeah.
I had the long hair so that I could get it cut off in the movie, but it's much shorter in the movie than this even, but. We did it when we could, coming back from a concert or, whenever I could, we filmed part of this movie. But my drop dead date for it coming out on Cineflix, which is our distribution, our streaming distribution arm, it was October 20th. So I knew that date was coming. So our deadlines are self-inflicted, which is important. But my point, I've rambled, is that a lot of people try to make things, or they do make things, that shout against the machine, secretly hoping that the machine will pick it up and save them from a lifetime of financial ruin.
Right.
You've got to be willing, which is what this movie is about as well. If you aren't willing to lose everything for what you believe in, if you aren't willing to put everything on the line, if you ain't all in, you're out. And that's how Quentin North feels. That's how I feel. That's how Alicia and I feel. We are currently, once again, all in.
And this is not your first. You've done quite a few films through.
We have done quite a few films, and they started.
And all of those.
Yeah, that's so much fun. Those are so much. Those, I was talking to Alicia the other night about this. That was kind of Poker Run, Stand on It, and the next one in that series is called Double or Nuttin'. Those are kind of our Every Which Way But Loose, Any Which Way You Can. He didn't do a third one of those, but and that in my mind was an accident. And Alicia says, "Oh, you're so cute, baby. that was no accident." Because she's the producer.
Take a lot of inspiration.
So yeah, it's exciting for me. Because again, I mean, if you are all in, we were all in with Christmas cards. Christmas card paid for itself and a little more. We took the little more and we put it in Stand on It, and we raised a little additional money, and we put some of whatever we had in there too. So we were all in
it's
again.
Working. It's a successful model.
But we knew that once we had the first one that actually paid for itself.
Yeah. Which is incredibly hard, by the way, in Hollywood, period. Not independent movies.
True.
Period. Just to make a movie that turns a profit is very rare.
It's difficult, but keep talking about my wife, the producer. This isn't like some actor that made his wife a producer. We met when she hired me to do a movie she was making.
Right.
And she used to run, the old president of Paramount was Robert Evans. He did, he did Rosemary's Baby. He did The Godfather, Chinatown. He did Harold and Maude, on and on and on.
The kid stays in the picture.
Kid stays in the picture. It was all about him. So when he was no longer the president of Paramount, he had his lifetime deal, and he had
lifetime.
For the rest of his life
he had a deal.
That's where they got that name.
Yeah.
At Paramount, and he had a production company there, and she ran it.
Oh wow!
So this woman is a powerhouse.
Yeah, I want to hear those stories. I want to hear the Robert Evans
you want
stories.
to get her on.
Yeah.
I promise you do. So the key to being able to make money back on your movie or your record is to not spend that much money on your movie or your record. You've got to spend wisely. You've got to spend the money. The only way to spend money on a movie or any piece of content like it was your own is make sure that it is your own.
Yeah.
And you will.
Yeah.
So this movie was, she knows what it cost because she was taking care of everything in the background there. Yes, but we do have our studio in Louisiana. So the cameras are ours, the microphones are ours, the lights are ours. So we don't have to go
Budgets
out.
It's a different
and
system.
rent things. Yeah. We wind up buying something new. Like I just upgraded my, I'm the editor too. So we just upgraded my Mac tower with a couple of video cards in there that have really been a game changer for me over the last 2 weeks.
Shows you can do all of this. A lot of people talk about making content. And look, I'm not saying go use your phone but there are a lot of people. You have a little film studio in your pocket.
It's
if you
a
want to
4K.
tell stories.
It's 4K.
Yeah, if you want to tell a story, you can have a place to start. Probably, like I said, in your pocket, ready to go. And then you have people like you who are obviously incredible actor, can bring a lot of weight and bring fan base to this. I think that's also true for what's happening in Hollywood. Can you find actors or directors like yourself who come with hundreds of thousands, millions of fans and go, yeah, I'm doing this? Because it's different than if someone just said, yeah, I'm going to make a movie with my friends. I hope it's great. You have John Schneider, who people grew up with, who know him from multi-generations now of different films. It's a bit different in that point of view, but there are people, and we're going to start seeing it more and more, who will take those risks.
Yeah, I think you will, because right now there's not a whole lot of risk involved out there. You know, if Brad Pitt and George Clooney want to get together and make a movie, and put forth some more leftist BS propaganda, they can do that, but somebody else will pay for it.
What's funding it? Yeah,
They will not fund it. No. They are not in the risk business. We are in the risk business. And when it works, and it has been working, the last 3 films we've made, it has been working. We have gotten on base in the last 3 films we've made. We have not hit a home run or a grand slam yet. I think that this one is going to be the grand slam because we have, and I've just realized this, we have Christmas Cars, Stand on It, and Poker Run. We have 3, pardon the expression, men on base.
And they're very...
That was supposed to be a joke. I hear you laughing.
No, I got it. Sorry.
So,
think about my next question. Now, I'm just grilling you from well, how can we do a movie? No, I'm kidding.
So right. So this one, because of the nature of the film, the trailer I think is really good, and I did that, but I went in and I cut some things together that I thought would offend all the right people.
Yeah.
And I put them in there.
Get you some attention.
Exactly.
Because the other movies you mentioned, the Christmas Cars has a pretty strong message, but Poker Run and some of these, those are very fun.
Southern horsepower comedy.
Yes. This is
They are Dukes of Hazzard.
Yes. And now this film is targeting an audience that is pretty, it's not narrow, we said. It's a very large audience.
Yes.
But it's a specific, it's fine. It's a specific group. It is a audience that would be interested in this more conservative angle of a movie. Because you can watch Poker Run or watch Stand on It, and those probably okay, it doesn't really matter where you are politically.
Those are great beer and popcorn movies.
Exactly.
They're like
they're
Smokey
really
the
fun.
Bandit.
They're fun.
They're great fun. But this movie is the one you're going to want to watch just because you want to hear the things you've been thinking said out loud, or you want to watch with someone next to you that you have been afraid to say these things to, or at least hesitant to say these things to.
Yeah.
This is an attention getter. This film will welcome discussion. It'll open up discussions with people you would never talk about these things with before. Oh, come on. Somebody really is willing to potentially die in their front yard for a piece of tattered fabric? You bet your butt they are. Yeah. There are millions of them, and there are those who do that every day on foreign soil. The difference is, I never really knew what enemies foreign or domestic meant. How brilliant were our forefathers, our founding fathers,
to realize,
to be speaking about, to put "and domestic" on that document, because right now we are being attacked by I believe, a very small, albeit loud group. But they are attacking us every day. I'm watching people fight back. I'm watching our Second Amendment be. They tried to get rid of it. What are we now? 21 states now have open carry.
I'm not sure the number total.
I think it's,
you probably know that more
21.
Than me. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's great because I tell you what, if a bad guy comes, I live in Louisiana.
Yeah,
and it's not to say that. I mean, New Orleans is just falling apart. That's poor mayorship. But you come into a room in Louisiana, chances are there are more people armed than not.
Yeah,
I don't care what the room is. So unless you're coming there to do damage to someone specifically, you're not going to walk in there and say, put them up.
Right.
Because
there's a whole
they
room
won't
of
even
people.
spill their Michelob Ultra before you, too, look like grated cheese.
Yeah. Well, John, I am excited for the movie again. It's coming out October 20th.
October 20th, but people can pre-order it.
You can pre-order it.
But let me explain that.
Yeah, let's maybe just walk them through the process because you're self-distributing this.
Yes.
It is available. When people are purchasing it, they are buying it from your studio.
My phone dings when someone purchases it.
And I want people to know that because I think that is important. You're right. It's not someone who makes a movie, sells it to whatever company. They don't know about it anymore. They don't care. They got their money back. This
Right.
is directly impacting your future productions, but also it's making a statement. And people are going to see the website. They're going to see they have to purchase it. They have to go through that process. So maybe
Right, and watch the trailer. You're gonna. If you don't like the trailer, you're not going to like the movie. Okay, so buy
Fair
the movie
enough.
and then just don't watch it.
Yeah.
Then I would appreciate
then the
that
ding
too.
happens and it's fine.
There you go. Then it's fine.
Yeah.
But so what we have right now is todieformovie.com.
Mm-hmm.
So we have made it. We put it at half off because with Christmas Cars, Stand On It, and Poker Run, our distribution site is actually it's through Vimeo.
A lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah.
Hosting.
So it's through Vimeo. Cineflix DOD is through Vimeo. So we have a presence on there that looks like we have this big business somewhere. It is a big business, but we don't have servers and all that. We want to.
Yeah.
We want, and we can do that, but we have to hit a Trans Am.
Yeah.
Hit a Grand Slam.
Yeah,
before we do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty big.
Yeah, that's a big
process to
thing,
do.
and you've got to be able to run it. The reason why I know it's a big thing is on those last 3 films on opening day, we have crashed the server. So we could only have, I don't know, maybe 1,500 people. You know, that's great. 1,500 people want to stream your movie on opening day.
Yeah.
That's great. Or, pardon me, 1,500 people can.
Yeah.
But what if 100,000 wanted to?
Right.
So what
You've hit
we've
those
done,
limits.
we talked with the people at Vimeo, and they said, look, you should consider doing a pre-sale. So when you pre-sell it, if you go to todieformovie.com right now, you'll get it half off, but you will, on opening day on the 20th, it's not going to crash for you.
Yeah.
And it's going to help not crash the server for them.
They know what's coming.
Yeah, to know what's coming. So you get half off. You're first in line. So go to todieformovie.com. When you do, the trailer will be up there, and it'll say pre-order now. So watch the trailer. If it floats your boat, then pre-order. At midnight or at 12:01 on the 19th, I guess it's the first minute of the 20th.
Crossover, yeah.
I'm going to be awake, and I'm going to change it to $19.99. So if you want it half off,
pre-order.
and that's not the whole reason to get something, but, I wanted to give some incentive for people to pre-order. So do that, and then the movie will be out available for streaming until what we call Orange Friday, which is when Poker Run and Stand On It and Christmas Cars came out. That is, for all you Dukes of Hazzard fans, the Friday after Thanksgiving. I refuse to call it anything but Orange Friday.
Yeah.
So
for the general league, for people,
exactly,
for
the
people
general
to
league.
put it together,
for the general league, because I believe, getting on a rampage here.
No, I'm just clarifying so people understand why it's Orange Friday for you.
Yep, Orange Friday for me is because of the General League, in honor of the General League, and to love the car, loved everything about the Dukes of Hazzard, love Stand On It and Poker Run. You can rent those right now.
Yeah,
but you'd have to go to Cineflix DOD, which is hard to remember. Cineflix DOD.
We'll put some links. People can go.
Put
I
some
think they
links
should
up
go
like that.
And they should check out the other movies because, again, those are really fun. But those are fun. This may be important. And I'll say it that way.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's...
And that's a good way maybe putting it, is this is a message and a mission.
It's a message done in a very in your face way, but it's not a soapbox sort of a thing.
Yeah.
It is about our flag. It's about patriotism. It's about supremacy, regardless of its color, is wrong.
Yeah.
It's about that. Yeah. It's about misconceptions between people. I don't believe in playing someone who's Quint North is not always right. You know, he's in his own way, aren't we all? Yeah. So I'm very, very proud of this movie. Brian saw the whole thing.
Brian, our shared friend and publicist.
Yeah, yeah. So and when you see it, please share it with somebody. Share the link to dieformovie.com, and then come Orange Friday, we'll have some idea of knowing how many DVDs we need to make, because that's another thing. When you are self-distributing, it's kind of like having a birthday. You don't know what size cake to get. You don't know if
people
4 people or 10,000 people are going to show up. So we don't want to make the mistake of manufacturing too many DVDs. But worse than that is making the mistake of manufacturing too few DVDs. So help a patriot out. Go to dieformovie.com. Pre-order now. If you wait, order it anyway, and get a hold of a DVD. And the other reason we did this is because right after the movie comes out, 2 weeks later is voting day.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you said we picked October 20th for a reason, I feel like I
that's
could
the
put a
reason.
Yeah.
And I ask people in it, you vote?
Yep.
And the first guy I asked says, why bother? And I say, that's just what they want you to think.
Exactly.
And then another guy who's in the process of almost arresting me, I said, do you vote? He said, I always vote. I said, good on you. And then, of course, my enemy neighbor across the street, I said, hey, do you vote? And he says, no. And I say, good.
Good. Well, I can't think of a better place. Look, we'll show a clip from the trailer to wrap up.
Please,
John, thanks for coming. I'm sure we'll have you back in at some point. You're always in and out of Nashville.
Yes,
we like
indeed.
it. You're like our part-time resident.
I'm the third. I'm not the third. How many brothers are there?
It's just us.
That's
You're
okay.
third
Well, there's
brother.
now 3.
I'm down with that. That's
there's
cool.
Now 3. I'm an honorary secular.
That's an incredible honor. We're putting that on the quote.
Next time we'll talk about me meeting your dad on the phone.
Oh yes, yeah, because you called in.
And that was no cell phones back then.
I remember that day.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's.
My assistant Michelle, I gotta give her a shout. She's one who
picked up the phone.
I think she almost, to this day, I have to tell her today that you were here.
That's right.
She almost passed out.
You know how many people,
and honest about it.
You know how many people are out on fall break in our studio right now and are like, we missed the day that John came in, of course. Yeah. Sorry, folks. So next time. We'll bring you back.
Next time.
All right. Thank you, John.
I will quiz you on To Die For.
All right. To Die For movie. Take a look. Here's a quick glimpse of the trailer, and we'll talk to you next week.
I want you to take it down.
From where?
Your truck.
My truck, my flag.
Some people find it offensive.
What if I find them offensive? You gonna take that down?
Why not take the new trail?
Because I like the old trail. It's my road too, Arnie.
I know, but there are other roads.
You know what? I got a shotgun. Seems to me some things are worth losing your job over, Maggie.
Yeah, 4th of July's over. Take your flag down, old man.
It's always 4th of July at my house.
All of the grass still grow and the water run.
I told you what would happen the next time you touch my flag, Tonto.
What are you gonna do with that gun?
Don't get out of my yard. You'll find out.
Do us both a favor and take the new road in and out of town from now on.
It hurts me as much as it does you.
Somehow I doubt that.
I'm going to file the restraining order for the school.
Against me.
Crazy old man. It is with great displeasure and embarrassment that I find in favor of the plaintiff in this case, Miss Quinn.
You're going to jail, Quint.
No kidding.